For Women's History Month, we are highlighting ways Bay Area women are paving a path for the next generation. Amanda Starrantino shows us how a group of women was inspired to come together to start a wellness community with more inclusive spaces for all to enjoy.
Through breath and movement, yoga can bring a plethora of benefits to your body and your mind. But for some, walking into a yoga studio can be extremely intimidating.
Being a Black woman in a larger body, found it challenging at times to go to a class and feel like I could get as much out of it as other people who might be thin and more able-bodied. And I noticed that not every teacher would attune to that and provide, ways to alter poses and make it accessible for all.
Taylor Bowman is one of a handful of women who wanted to make access to wellness-driven activities easier for all.
I wanted to be a part of creating a space where you could be a whole range of abilities and skin colors and body sizes, and everyone could get something positive out of the practice.
In 2020, the idea for Tendwell was born.
With George Floyd's murder and the resurgence of Black Lives Matter, it was an opportunity for a lot of discussions that hadn't been had as directly to actually start being had in yoga communities. And we were watching also a lot of yoga studios be really performative in their responses, outright racist in some of their responses, and even some of our own members being victims of that.
Emily Hedges worked in a yoga studio and saw the formats of these types of businesses made it difficult for many people to learn from classes like these.
It's really, quite frankly, just the way the business model is set up. If you're a for-profit company, it's really only accessible to either high-income people or people, who are predominantly white. White, thin, and able-bodied is kind of like the characteristics. And we're looking to change that. We're looking to make it available. And enjoyable and joyful for everyone.
In the fall of 2021, this group made their idea a reality with the start of their business, Tendwell, an online wellness collective offering virtual and in-person classes at various locations. And here you can find yoga classes, community events, therapy, music spaces, and more. It's all focused around benefiting the mind and body while creating a community.
Tendwell works a little different than what you're probably used to. Instead of paying a rate assigned by the yoga studio for the class, you pay by what feels good to you on this sliding scale on their website. So the more you pay, the more you can help the cost for others who can't afford it to be able to check out these classes too.
Well, it seems like when you come into a space where they say everyone's welcome and they want everyone to have a full practice, I wanted that to mean that, that I really could come to a class and feel like, okay, yes, this is a space for me to move my body and feel good in my body and be with other people.
For Taylor, who has worked in a yoga studio and has been a student herself, something like this is welcoming for people of all walks of life to come together to benefit from these kinds of practices. And Tendwell is creating a community for all to enjoy.
From my own experience, if I see someone who's a Black woman, she doesn't even have to be a fat-bodied person, but just a Black woman, I'm like, I think she would see me in that class. And that's not to say that anybody can't have a wonderful class that feels inclusive and inviting, but it makes a difference, especially if you've had experiences like myself where you feel like you're the only of someone in a class, the only Black woman in a class, the only person of color in a class. But if the teacher is a reflection of you in some kind of way, that makes it a little bit easier to dip your toe in and try it.
The Tendwell founders hope to eventually have a physical space for their clients to gather. For now, they're an online wellness community meeting either virtually or at various locations around the Bay Area.